You are watching this alone right now. No one is sitting next to you. No one is watching your face. You are absorbing someone else's thoughts in complete silence inside a room where no other voice can reach you. You have never once considered that to be strange, but it is. Silence, the deliberate, chosen kind, where you exist inside your own skull with no obligation to respond to another living person, is one of the most unnatural states a human being can occupy. More unnatural than flying. More unnatural than living underwater. More unnatural than staring at a glowing screen for 14 hours a day. For thousands of years of human history, voluntary silence between people who were awake and near each other simply did not happen. And the most unsettling part is not that they lacked it, it is that they did not want it.
So here is the real question.
How did our ancestors think, process emotion, grieve, plan, and become themselves without ever once being left alone with their own thoughts? The answer will make you reconsider every assumption you hold about what a healthy mind requires. For most of human history, the boundary of your entire social world was the distance a human voice could carry. That is not poetry. In 2017, psychologist Robin Dunbar, building on his earlier work at Oxford, described the acoustic architecture of early human groups. The average conversational voice carries roughly 30 feet in open air. A loud call, maybe 200. Every social interaction, every whispered plan, every joke, every argument existed inside that sphere. There was no way to speak to someone without being heard by others. There was no way to think out loud without an audience. Inside this acoustic sphere lived 20 to 50 people. They were not roommates. They were not neighbors. They were something for which we no longer have a word. People whose entire cognitive and emotional lives overlapped completely with yours. You processed every feeling in real time, in public, with witnesses. There was no journaling, no therapy session, no midnight phone call to a single trusted friend. There was the group, and everything you felt moved through it like weather. Here is where it gets specific. Consider grief. Today, when someone you love dies, the cultural expectation in most developed nations is to process that loss privately. You may cry alone. You may take days off work and sit in an empty house. The implicit message is that grief is internal, personal, yours to carry. For our ancestors, this model would have been incomprehensible. In 2009, anthropologist Polly Wiesner at the University of Utah published an extensive analysis of nighttime conversation among the Jew/Hawansi people of the Kalahari. She found that 81% of firelight conversation involved storytelling, and a significant portion of those stories concerned the dead. Grief was not processed in isolation. It was processed through collective narrative, told and retold, night after night, around a fire surrounded by every person you had ever known. The Andaman Islanders of the Indian Ocean, documented by Alfred Radcliffe Brown in the early 20th century, practiced communal weeping ceremonies that lasted days, not private tears behind a closed door, organized, collective, rhythmic crying. Entire groups sobbing together, touching the body, singing the name. Grief moved through the group the way a current moves through water. No single person had to hold its full weight. We hold it alone, and we call that healthy. If grief was communal, then so was thought itself. And this is the part that is hardest for modern humans to accept. Today we treat thinking as a solo act. You sit quietly, you turn an idea over in your mind, you reach a conclusion, you might then share it. The sequence is solitude, cognition, expression. For thousands of years that sequence did not exist. Cognition was social from the first moment. In 2010, cognitive scientist Edwin Hutchins at the University of California, San Diego, published work on what he called distributed cognition, the principle that in small, tightly bonded groups, thinking does not happen inside one skull. It happens between skulls. One person notices a pattern in animal tracks. Another remembers a similar pattern from a different season. A third connects both observations to a water source that has shifted. The thought was never inside any single person. It existed in the network. This was not collaboration in the way a modern team collaborates, dividing tasks and merging outputs. This was cognition that could not have occurred in any individual mind at all. The group was the mind, and this has a consequence that should disturb you. When you sit alone in a quiet room and try to make a decision about your career, your relationship, your future. You are using a mind that was designed to work as part of a community, now running in isolation. You are a single voice trying to do the work of 50. Sleep was not an escape from this togetherness. It was an extension of it. In 2017, David Sampson and Charles Nunn published research on what they termed the Sentinel hypothesis of human sleep. Studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, they discovered that at any given point during the night, at least one member of the group was awake, not by assignment, not through a formal watch schedule, through the natural variation in human sleep patterns, the built-in tendency for different people to fall asleep and wake up at different times. Over any 8-hour stretch, the number of minutes during which every single member of the group was simultaneously asleep was close to zero. The human mind developed to sleep surrounded by others who were watching. The deep architecture of your sleep, your startle response, your sensitivity to unfamiliar sound, your cycles of light and deep rest, all of it was shaped by a world where you were never the only one conscious. When you lie awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, one contributing factor may be that your mind is listening for other people and hearing nothing. Thousands of years ago, agriculture arrived, and with agriculture came permanent structures, walls, roofs, enclosed spaces. Most accounts of human history treat this as the birth of privacy, but a more precise reading suggests it was the birth of something else entirely: acoustic isolation. In 2007, archaeologist Ian Hodder, continuing his decades-long excavation of Çatalhöyük in modern Turkey, noted something remarkable about the settlement's earliest structures. The houses had no doors at ground level. Entry was through the roof. The walls were thick, made of mud brick. He argued that these were not designed primarily for shelter from weather or predators. They were designed to contain sound. For the first time in all of human history, a person could make a noise that no one else heard. A child could cry and only its parents would know. A couple could argue without the group intervening. A person could sit in silence, truly alone with their own thoughts, for the first time since the beginning. This was not a gift. It was an experiment, and the results have been mixed. Today, the average adult in a developed country spends 6.9 hours per day completely alone. Not alone in a crowd, not alone with background noise from strangers. Alone. No other human within acoustic range. The World Health Organization declared loneliness a global health threat. Research published in Perspectives on Psychological Science found that chronic social isolation increases mortality risk by roughly 26%, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The brain regions most active during social bonding, the medial prefrontal cortex, the temporoparietal junction, show measurable weakening in individuals who spend extended periods in isolation. We are not merely lonely, we are diminished by our solitude. The mind is working without most of its support. Our ancestors never had a moment of chosen silence. They never sat alone with a thought and turned it over without interruption. They never grieved behind a closed door or made a decision without someone watching them make it. But they also never experienced the specific modern terror of having a problem and no one to tell. They never lay awake wondering if anyone would notice if they disappeared. They never had to schedule connection, to book time with the people who were supposed to be closest to them. They did not build walls because they did not need to protect space. They built trust instead. Trust that the group would look away when looking away was kind. Trust that the group would lean in when leaning in was necessary. We built walls to create space for ourselves, and then we sat inside that space and wondered why it felt so empty. For thousands of years, humans were never silent alone. They found ways to think, to grieve, to desire, to rest, all inside the sound of other people living. They built selfhood not by retreating from the group, but by existing so deeply within it that the group became an extension of the self. Then we invented silence, and we have been trying to fill it ever since.